And welcome back to the Analyst Desk. XL Esports are taking on SK Gaming in our next matchup. And we want to take a moment to celebrate the performance yesterday. Frankly, because we can't see any glaring trends or things that we can really bite our teeth in. We're seeing such different performances from both XL and SK day to day that we just want to dive into yesterday.
Yeah, they're kind of 3-3 right now, if you hadn't noticed. And the problem with such few games is that it's very difficult to actually notice any clear trends. And so what we've been looking for from both these teams is some form of consistent identity. And I think that XL yesterday showcased their game where they wanted to go for a little bit more of the scaling teamfight approach, which is something that they have showcased a little bit, but I will say that it was different seeing, like, when we saw Kryze on the Cho'Gath, I typically expect him on things like the Camille. I expect him on things like the Renekton, which we started to see him shift towards, but now he is willing to play these tanks. And as Caedrel has already mentioned, like, he's showcasing more of a wider champion.
Yeah, I mean, actually yesterday during Ready Check, Caedrel dove a little bit deeper onto that one, and he was talking about how Kryze didn't play Renekton in the 6 months that Caedrel played alongside him. And then all of a sudden last week we see the Renekton. He actually theorized during Ready Check that Young Buck, the impact that XL will have, and that seeing Kryze develop his champion pool, he's like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see tanks. The Cho'Gath comes out. Now, admittedly, Hans Summer and Misfits around that third dragon, they may have permitted certain advantages for XL to take advantage of, but I do think it is crucial to call out that Kryze, after seeing the Lulu and the Ivern, now seeing the Renekton, now seeing the Cho'Gath, they are finding a little bit more value from his performance, and now we need to see consistency. Now we need to see a style that they can fit in developing, right?
Because, like, I have my concerns around XL, which is if their approach is to just stick to the scaling style, it's fine, but I have not seen, like, a lot of, like, lane involvement from Dan. Often a lot of their advantages have come from, like, 2v2 kills from the bot lane, sometimes disadvantages, like sometimes Czekolad can even get solo kills in mid. Like, sometimes you do see these things, but when it comes to, like, proactivity in the early game, we haven't really seen a huge amount from Dan. And it's easy to compare that to someone like a Gilius, who we just saw last game on his Pantheon. Like, even though he had a better scaling comp, he was constantly active on the map and he was looking for players and trying to play for his lanes, right? So it seems to me that XL don't yet have a defined style, but they're still getting wins. So if they keep this trend up, that's good, but it's not going to help them secure that playoff spot. And the thing is, SK is in a very similar boat because they're still trying to figure out where it is that they fit in and how they want to approach the game. And yesterday, we definitely saw a very different style from them because they were all in aggression, all in your face, super just fight you all the time.
I mean, they had 3 junglers on their composition effectively, right? When I saw the Nidalee and the Pantheon, I already started scratching my head. Jarvan came in later on in the draft, but it worked. Now, I do think it is crucial to call out that Mad Lions made some proactive plays, which SK punished, and then they took those advantages that they had accrued and pushed it further. I clinched when the Baron was happening. It was a 50-50. There was definitely a burger flip going on, but it landed on SK and they were able to pick up a win, which was a surprise to many. But everything you've just said about XL, you could say about SK, right? You know, we're seeing ups and downs, we're seeing volatility, and similarly, SK are looking for, again, that identity or that style that can work.
And it's not that uncommon. Like, we already talked about it a lot yesterday. We're going to keep talking about it today. Early on in the season, when you have a brand new meta, when you have all these new items, when you have so many changes going on within the team, within the game, pretty much everywhere, you're going to have this element of inconsistency. And I don't think it's something that we want to criticize these teams for, right? We're not sitting here saying that SK is bad, XL is bad. We're looking at these teams and we're like, okay, where is that line of consistency? Who are the players that we're looking at to kind of build around? What is the direction? What is the comp or something that you can take forward? Because Schalke has found it, right? We're seeing Broken Blade step up. But now we're looking at a team like SK and XL and we're like, who are the players that we're keeping around? And right now, for a team like SK, we have our eyes on Treatz. Is he the next Hillisang and Mickey that's, like, super active on the map? Right now, his approach to the game is different to theirs, but in lane, he is supporting his support. He is coming up with interesting picks. He is the playmaker for his team, and maybe he is the player that SK can continue to try and build around and enable so the rest of the team can succeed.
He needs to rally support, right? I think you said this earlier today as well, that while Treatz is doing very well in the laning phase, we want to see him helping other players, and we need some more carries to step up. This Jarvan performance, I just want to put some numbers to this. He had a 1,000 goal difference of 15. It's the highest for a support in a single game this year. He had the 2nd highest damage per minute for a support in a single game this year, and he also was the 2nd person to get 100% kill participation in a winning game. Do you know how hard it is to get 100% kill participation in a game that you end up winning? So all credits to Treatz. The 3 games SK have won, he has also been the player of the game, as voted for by you, the fans at home, which means he's having those standout performances, those pop-off moments. But now one of these teams will win, one of these teams will lose.
Yep.
Who would you hedge your bets on? Would you invest or
the
sell?
okay, no. But the interesting thing is because neither of these teams to me have shown any real clear trends, right? And like the game on the day could go either way, largely depending on draft, which players step up. The things that I can say is I think that there is a big support difference. I think that I have a lot of confidence in Treatz compared to Torre. However, I do think that when you look at the top side of the map, I have a little bit more confidence in Kryze than I do in a player like Jenax. I think that when you play through Jenax, he's fine.
Right.
But if you put him behind, that's an easy lane for Kryze to find an advantage. So there are a lot of variables.
Are you hungry? Would you like dinner? It's time to flip a burger and see who goes undefeated in week 3, as we'll leave it to Medic and Ender for SK versus XL. Yeah, that was awful. I don't know why
it was awful.
That.
All
Trevor does is take Caedrel's jokes and then run them into the ground.
I mean, he's done that with all of the jokes for the history of jokes.
It's true.
Like, it's just, we had the stonks thing earlier today. Are you selling? Are you buying?
Step your game up, Trev.
Come on, Trev.
Come on.
EDM grandpa.
Old man. See, we already had the segment on boomers earlier today, so I don't think we need to hash that up. We do have a sweet game coming your way. I think when you look at it, I think the analyst desk, Vedius primarily, did a great job of setting up some of the tendencies of these two teams. Early skirmish style we saw yesterday, SK pulled off so greatly, working around that power bot lane, and the more scaling approach to Excel, which I personally enjoy. I think that the way they've been playing, it's the way to go, and I'm excited to see the clash of styles as we hit Champ Select.
Let's go!
Boom!
The musical disparity between boom, 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 boom.
It's a vibe. It's chilling. I like it.
Anyway, XL on the blue side, SK Gaming on the red.
Hey, I know the name of that champion, by the way. It's Callista. Nope, Callista. That's the one that eluded me just yesterday, but I think removing that, XL probably didn't come into the week expecting to see that pick come out to such great success for Jezu yesterday. So they're going to say, get rid of that blue side. We feel a little bit more freed up in the ban phase. And then also removing those globals. Yesterday's comp from SK focused around a Pantheon in the top lane, a Twisted Fate in mid, and these globals can be used to shut down teams, especially teams that want to take it easy. Take it slow in the early game and scale up into the later phase, so I like these bans from XL.
I mean, XL have definitely been a team that have been willing to take it slow. We see the Udyr banned away from by SK. Dan has played that a few times already, and it does mean Pantheon is available here, and the expectation has to be, like, come on XL.
It's a little bit too good. It's a little bit too good to be true. I think XL go ahead and lock that one in. I'm curious to see what the response is going to be, because SK, I actually really liked what they were able to put together yesterday. And again, it was so much about that bot lane 2v2, just winning the 2v2 straight up. So go for the power 2v2 pick. I mean, you heard nothing but praise from the analyst desk coming for Treatz, who's had a great start to the split already. And locking things down again, similar to yesterday, with some powerful early game champions, Renekton and the Nidalee here to kick it off.
Does make me wonder if XL will just go for something like the Gragas in the top lane, which is exactly what they do. Gragas into Renekton is a matchup we saw a lot in week 1. Haven't seen it so much since then. And alongside that, actually, XL gonna lock in the Azir for Czekolad. Not even looking towards an AD carry before the second phase.
Honestly, this doesn't surprise me a ton from XL. Already we're seeing a lot of strong teamfight tools, right? The Gragas and the Azir so good at buying space for a backline. And again, if SK are going for this more, bruiser-focused frontline with a Renekton, more skirmish-heavy style of play, assuming they're not able to find fights with the numbers advantage where they're immediately pouncing on one target from XL, well, these displacement effects, these CCs, the AoE, is going to be difficult for them to deal with.
SK will get Syndra for blue in the mid lane as their next pick. We have seen him, we haven't seen him actually play so far this split, and now we're getting on to the second phase. Supports and AD carries are still left up. I wonder if you get rid of something like the Rel, just because of how powerful she has been across the last few weeks. Instead, Patrick's Draven is going to be banned.
All right, so what does that mean for Jezu on the bottom side of the map again? Holding off, and likely we see AD carry locked in first for them, I would assume, and then make sure Treatz can get the support that he wants to lock in. Again, SK have the same idea as yesterday with very strong top side of the map. Now, yesterday, the game wasn't focused around the top side, even with strong picks in that area because of all the spikes that happened down towards bottom lane. So, assuming we see SK with a favorable 2v2 matchup once again, we could see that focus shift down towards them. But again, it already feels like SK are going to be trying to play the game a little bit faster on more of a clock here than Excel.
I mean, that's traditionally been what we've seen across the last few weeks of the LEC. SK, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Xayah removed here. Could, of course, remove something like the Aphelios that Patrick's brought out as well. Instead, the Thresh, that safety that Torre can give to Patrick, will be taken out of the equation. Excel, like, you could get rid of something like the MF, actually, if you're trying to avoid that skirmish sort of extra damage in the early game style, but instead, they take away the Rel. So lots of support bans, not so many AD carry bans. Xayah, Jhin, Aphelios, all still on the cards.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the champions that Patrik has played this split, it's been primarily Kryze, then followed up by Xayah, then Aphelios. With Kryze banned, Thresh banned, likely don't see an Aphelios come through, so it wouldn't actually surprise me to see a Xayah locked in here, especially when you see, well, there's a lot of single target burst, ability to jump on you from SK, and it definitely would fit into the idea that Excel are trying to play back in team fights, buy space, throw some CC in from your bottom lane, and there you have it.
Great prediction, Ender.
Boom.
I will say it was basically the only AD carry left apart from Aphelios, so...
That's true.
Yeah. Vayne, I guess Vayne's still on the cards. Rakan is a strong bot lane. We actually saw Torre have a pretty good performance on it last week, I believe. And so now we'll see where Excel decide to go. Where are you going? Xayah, Rakan, you have an Alistar, which is okay into the Rakan. Not great into the Xayah.
I actually don't know. Jezu's played so many champions. He actually has played the Misfortune earlier this split. So they realized, I think SK found out, wait a second, we actually have a lot of single target damage, not a whole lot of AoE, not a lot of team fight tools. So the bot lane is going to try and shore up that weakness. Similar to yesterday, it's going to be Treatz leading the charge in terms of the overall engage. And this is not an easy game for Treatz to execute in. There's so many tools to push him away from Excel's backline, and he really is going to be the main focus trying to kick off these fights for SK. So again, I think we need to see TynX a little bit more present in the early game, find a lane that he can play around, find a lane that he can get some advantages in, because Excel's team fight is looking dirty. Like that is a tough 5v5 to run into if you're SK.
That's a really powerful 5v5. The zone control, the area control from Excel. Could Excel for them as the game goes on. SK, on the other hand, want lots of skirmishes. They want lots of them early. We'll see which one of the two takes home the win today. And do you want a medic moment? Do you want a quick bit of information before we start this game?
You've said that to me, I think, every single game we've cast together, so yeah, hit me.
We've got tons of them.
Hit me.
Got tons of them. There is a player in this game who is yet to die before the 15-minute mark. Who is it? It's also the only player in the league yet to die before the 15-minute mark. It's a good one.
That's tough. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna think here. I'm gonna guess it can't be a jungler, can't be a top laner.
Already incorrect.
Really? Oh, well then it's TynX.
It is TynX.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Good one.
Cool.
I mean, I don't think you can say easy clap after you said it can't be
Look,
this.
it's like a multiple choice
you.
question because I had 4 options once you said that, so I like to take credit for that.
Good job, mate.
Thanks.
You didn't sound surprised at all by the fact that you got the correct answer.
That's because I'm just a genius.
Obviously.
I obviously knew it. It's a cool little medic moment. You know, we keep trying to brand it like quick stats, and eventually people are going to like it.
See, the thing with this is, Quickshot and I actually had a discussion about this while we have a bit of early laning. Quick stats are the ones that have no bearing or any meaning whatsoever. It's just random stats. Medic moments are more like actual moments that actually could influence things. Because you, in Pick and Ban Ender, were saying you want to see TynX do some stuff in the early game.
True.
And usually, if you're not dying in the early game, maybe he's just being really effective and getting tons of kills and never dying. But it's also possible that he isn't having as much impact as he would like early on in these matches.
Well, already mid lane with some pretty heavy trading early on here. And as far as like lanes, you can see the really try to impact early on. I'd be looking mostly around top lane, maybe around mid lane as well, especially if this trading does continue. Both those lanes have some CC to help out TynX land a spear. Of course, with Corrupting Potion starts in the mid lane, Biscuit's very likely on both players. We'll be able to sustain a whole lot of that away. And there's a good ward placed on the Raptor camp, which we'll see TynX hop over the wall and reveal a lot of that early pathing from it.
Yeah, both of the junglers basically symmetrical in their pathing right now. Dan about 5 seconds later to his chickens than TynX was. They'll both go from their blue over to their red side of the map. And now you can see Kryze actually getting pushed in the top lane as well, making it hard for TynX to find a good position in that lane.
We'll just end up turning into full clears from both junglers, move into their Scuttle Crab, trading the opposite sides of the map, so things slowing down. And as far as Excel are concerned, that's going to make them pretty happy. Czekolad realizes that his lane is sort of held against him, pushing in towards blue tower. He does have his TP to get back in the lane, which he is going to do, and with a Doran's Ring added onto that Corrupting Potion, should be able to push away that wave with a nice first base. We'll likely see blue try to match that. Often, it's a battle of attrition. You know, both sides can decide to wait on their TP for a whole long time, but if someone bases at level 3, you don't really want to lane against an extra, 500 gold item. That's kind of rough.
It really is. Jenax laning with a slight level advantage means that he's been able to push Kryze back. Actually has a CS discrepancy of about 5 or 6 here as well as the wave gets pushed underneath the tower. TynX getting the top side scuttle as Dan goes for the bottom one. TynX could look for a dive here, Ender.
Yeah, it's going to be tough though with the big wave. Good spear though, does set up a whole lot of damage on Kryze. They're going to try to push that one in here, and he is definitely trying to commit to this play. Blue also has TP if they wanted to fully go up towards the top lane, but again, hard to dive a Gragas early.
Kryze has just used the barrel, stunned up under the tower. They dive in, double belly bop from Kryze. Jenax has to slice away. No summoners burnt on the side of SK, but Kryze survives very well.
That is what I was concerned about. Doesn't end up denying too much. Kryze is down a little bit more than a minion wave here in terms of CS, but Dan is going to make up for that by taking away Gromp Camp on the bottom side of the map. A lot of pressure here to buy some space for Patrik too, and the TP goes out. So no bot lane threat of a TP behind is going to be coming in shortly here for SK. And I will also note it's interesting to see the early laning decision making from Excel. Early laning has been a point that's been criticized for Excel numerous times, but in this game, both Czekolad and the bot lane of Patrik and Torre reset right around that 3.5 minute mark, got an extra item under their belts, and
Jezu
have not
has
been
to
able to
heal.
match.
Yeah, Jezu has to heal there. Treatz used the Ignite as well onto Torre, but you can see it was just a blade caller, a couple of feathers into Jezu, locked him in place. Torre dived in.
Yeah, but you can see like Patrik, even without a TP, is able to go back to base, get a refillable potion and a longsword, and Jezu sort of stuck in this lane, so without a jungle around him, it's been tough as well.
Czekolad should be able to walk away from this. Blue's already used the Scat of the Week, so TynX doesn't have that easy Nidalee spear connection target.
But this is the tough thing for TynX now, is because he went top lane and the dive failed from him, his bot side camps got stolen away, and Blue's been stuck in this mid lane for a while. He's needed around that middle lane to help push out, and it's not the end of the world for him, but it does definitely lose him some early speed in the jungle clear, down a level to Dan.
I mean, you can see what he's trying to do here. Like, when he went for the gank top, when TynX went for the gank top, Dan invaded his Gromp and his wolves. And so TynX is like, okay, I'm going to come and try and get on your Gromp and wolves. But because of the positioning of the mid lane, because Dan was there first with the level advantage, TynX just can't get in and actually get any of this lost camp back. Treatz gets caught out just a little bit in the bottom lane, does still have the flash to try and get away if needed. For the moment, Patrik and Torre just using the power of Rakan Xayah in lane to keep Jezu and Treatz on the back foot.
I think it's safe to say a phase rush Alistar might have died there. The aftershock does help keep him alive. So again, SK not finding the openings you're maybe hoping to see from them. Level 6 is for their soul lanes. Does certainly give them a whole lot more power, but I do feel like it's very hard to actually jump onto an Azir. We already saw the gank attempt fail from the Gragas, and Dan should be hitting level 6 himself very soon. And once you get that global threat, well, just the threat of that global makes it so much more challenging for SK to start off any sort of fight on their own. The lack of TPs on their sides definitely removes a lot of playmaking options from them. So I think Excel are going to be very content with how the first 6.5 minutes have played out thus far.
It definitely will be. Pretty even in gold, about 400 the difference between the two teams. And no one falling monumentally behind, really. A lead for Patrik as well. It's very important for this AD carry because the matchup between Patrik and Jezu, as well as the matchup between Torre and Treatz, is one I really want to watch. I think Patrik has been having a stellar performance so far this split. Torre just caught out a little bit. as he's forced
Oh
away.
my.
Dan getting onto Jezu here. Jezu does still have the flash. Dan looking for the chase. Treatz coming in from the side as well, and Treatz has to flash himself. SK forced back into their own jungle.
Yeah, interesting to see there. Excel, of course, even had Patrik down bot side, so he continues to farm up. It was just SK a little bit split there. Blue wasn't able to get over the wall, so SK decided we don't want the fight. Let's just back away with Treatz, and that is very likely going to mean the Dragon now. Because SK was the one initially trying to set up the play, they left their lanes, and then they got forced out of the jungle, so now they don't have priority. Excel, of course, easily able to jump onto this Dragon, so a very good map maneuver there from Excel. Happy to see what they've come up with, and I think TynX is going to try to blitz up towards the top side of the map. Should know that the blue buff has respawned and has some prio to work with from Jenax as well. The difficulty is, again, Czekolad continues to push mid and can move over.
TynX is looking for a dive here. You can see once again they're trying to get Kryze behind. Dominus coming out. Kryze stunned up underneath the tower. TynX jumps in, knocked back, and Jenax tanking up the tower here will be
Oh, hey,
okay.
guys. How you doing?
I believe we have gone into a pause. And I'm just going to say what we've got in prompter here. SK reported a potential bug. League officials are currently investigating. So although the game looked like it was continuing to play, it has been paused. We will work out exactly what is going on there as soon as we can. Obviously, we want to make sure that everything is on the up and up.
I mean, clearly they think that that dive's supposed to work because that's the second time they've tried it now.
Right?
But again, the CC there from Kryze, all you have to do in this sort of dive situation as the Gragas is don't use your body slam until they damage you. As even if you're getting stunned by their Renekton, you wait till they CC you, and then all of a sudden you're the one locking them up. They're under time pressure. The turret's whacking away at them, and you saw in that play, Jenax had to get out of dodge. We'll see exactly what that issue is and get back to you as soon as we do know that. But I think I'm very happy to see how Kryze has avoided a lot of these dives. Early pressure against him has hurt him a couple of times so far this split. He's dodged 2 dives, and the rest of Excel have played the map well enough to walk away with an early Drake in a tough early game situation.
Yeah. As league officials continue to investigate, though, we are going to hand it back over to the analyst desk. Old Man, Boomer, and the My Chemical Romance frontman. That's the one. Over to you guys.
Yep.
Yep. Snap.
Yep.
Nicely done. Obviously, while Ender was giving his breakdown there, our producers were just letting Medic know to throw over to the analyst desk. I'm joined by Vedius. We will be getting Caedrel depending on how long this pause does play out for. As has already been reported, there is a pause. The players have reported a potential bug, which we are currently investigating. As soon as I have updates, I will share them with you. Until that time, I want to talk about this draft. I want to look at 2 things in particular.
Yes.
SK Gaming going with the AP jungler and the AD top laner. It's something that Caedrel talked a lot about yesterday.
You are such a Caedrel fan.
I am.
Caedrel this. Vedius is next to you. What does Vedius think, perhaps, Quickshot?
Mr. Day, when I'm here with Caedrel, all I do is quote Vedius.
Is that true?
I like to provide as much of a well-rounded broadcast as possible because I don't have opinions of my own. Right? So, Vedius, what do you think of the draft? And
Also,
what do you think of misfortune? How about that? Right? Let's just throw it out.
Caedrel gave some really great insight yesterday on Renekton plus Nidalee and how like the AP/AD jungle top, you know, it really has a distinct style on how you approach the game. No, of course, we'll stop having fun here. So XLs, let's kind of like go back to what we were talking about, Quickshot. If we can you guys kind of shift to the whole comp things behind us while we talk about this very quickly, because draft is interesting. Yeah, I know. But what we talked about in the pre-match was that how we were kind of interested to see how these teams approach the game. And when we looked at Excel yesterday, they went for much more of a scaling approach with the kind of tank in the top lane, kind of carries towards the bot side of the map. And like they just kind of waited until the mid to late game where they started then looking for big fights around Drakes and whatnot. Whereas from SK, they went for a hyper-aggressive early game. It wasn't actually tailored for the bot lane. They actually wanted to play through their mid and top side with the Pantheon top lane, the Nidalee jungle. It just so happened that their bot lane got a bunch of kills, and so they were like, well, okay, I guess we're going to pivot and play through bot. So that's what they ended up doing, and they ultimately snowballed the game very cleanly. So coming into today, we were kind of looking at this draft, what was their approach? Well, we can see that when you look at SK, they've gone for a very similar aggressive style, with Renekton Nidalee being the very specific core of, we want to attack you early, we want to try and play through the top side of the map, we want to do exactly what we did yesterday, except we want to play through top side. And, you know, it'd be nice if our bot lane did get 2v2 kills,
that's a
but
bonus.
That's not the game plan. You don't come in assuming that that's going to happen. You kind of just have to work around that. So as Ender was talking about, there's been obviously a lot of focus towards the top side, which Kryze has been able to hold on to. And then, like, conversely, rather, before I jump to that, I should talk about Excel's comp. They have gone for much more of a scaling teamfight focus, right? You have engaged in the bot lane, you have engaged in the top lane. You do have a more proactive jungler in the form of Pantheon with Dan, which I do like. I don't think we've actually seen that many ganks in the early game so far.
No, not yet. About 8 minutes in gameplay, no kills on the board as of
right.
yet.
But they have the scaling mid as well. And I think, to me, this says that Excel have come into week 3 saying, you know what, Czekolad is known for his control mages. Azir, for some reason, has been rising in priority, right? Azir is very good at push. He seems to be an answer to things like the Twisted Fates, and it's clearly, like, we're even seeing it banned a lot more. So Azir has risen in priority, and Czekolad saying, that's my champion. Yes. That's the champ I'm very comfortable on. If we can get our hands on Azir, Orianna, Zoe, these type of champs, then we can build comps around it. And to me, that seems like what Excel is doing, while also giving agency to their bot lane. And we already saw Patrik and Torre against Astralis. They had an excellent Xayah Rakan. They had another very strong Xayah performance yesterday, and Patrik is saying, this gives us lane power, this gives us the ability to actually set up plays in the 2 versus 2, and so I feel like that Excel have found a little bit more of an identity of how they want to approach the game. They're repeating it today, and so far in this early game, they're weathering the storm very, very well.
And the thing for me is, when I think about that style, scale for late, have something with a traditional front line, you know, the team fight approach, one of the things we always talk about is, like, you can't afford to make mistakes, obviously. If you fall behind and you have a scaling comp and you never get a chance to scale, well, then you're wrecked. And there's a playstyle element, an execution element. But then there's also there was many years ago, a lot of critics saying like that style can be countered by proactive teams, by proactive composition. So you kind of have this mixture where SK do have the tools, the possibility to do so. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it come to pass. But then it does come down to how these next 5, 10, 12 minutes play out, how the first tower falls, how the first kill comes in, and whether or not Excel can maintain that even footing to then actually be in a position where they're scaling and their team composition comes online.
So that kind of brings us into an interesting discussion. Seeing as we have time, I'm going to have it.
We do indeed. Just before you do, production. Is it possible to get the team compositions on the back?
Yeah, if we could get that, that would be fantastic.
We realize you are dealing with problems.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Producers have said no.
No.
So,
okay.
We'll have the Thank
you.
There is a lot going on.
We'll also give you updates when we do have updates. Yes. In the meantime, you're just
philosophical discussion.
You're going to listen to me ramble about stuff. So for any LS enthusiasts, this is actually...
so I can't mention Caedrel, but you bring in LS.
But this is a really interesting discussion he often has. But the general idea is that you will very rarely have 2 comps that scale equally. You can, it is possible, but it is very rare. Normally, one comp will scale better than another one. That could be in the context of split pushing, that could be in the context of team fighting.
There's nuance to it.
In some way, shape, or form, a team will scale better than another one. And if we just kind of look at this, the reason why we say Excel's comp scales better is because Azir as a champion does a lot of damage, the more items that he has. He's very difficult to get on top of because of things like his ultimate and his innate mobility from his E and Q, and he does damage from a very long distance. So as long as he has a front line, he can do a lot of damage without being at risk of taking much damage himself.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that his damage, the more items he has, progressively just gets greater and greater and greater. Like, it's very easy for him to have 3 soldiers. He gets a huge amount of attack speed. There are all these reasons why he scales very well into the game. So him alone makes him a very strong scaling pick because he's going to be much easier to play than a Syndra is in the late game, right? So in this context, you have a comp that quite clearly scales better than the other comp in the context of team fighting, right? So you then look at other options and you sit there and say, okay, are there other ways in which SK could potentially scale better than their opposition? Well, maybe on a side lane, Renekton could outscale people in a 1v1. And like, could he beat Azir in a 1v1? Probably, but he probably won't beat a Gragas, right? So now you're starting to see how Excel have found answers to a lot of what SK has got in terms of the late game, and they have ways to deal with them. Of course, the downside of scaling is that there are clear power troughs because they're reliant on items and certain breakpoints in the game, which is why a team like SK, if you recognize that you're getting outscaled, then what you need to do is you need to invest more into the early game. Because the only way you're going to then beat the scaling comp is if you have the ability to build a big enough gold advantage that you can then leverage that. Come the mid game, you are strong enough to contest these better scaling comps.
Okay, I love this. We are going to expand on this philosophical discussion, but I'm going to ask you to scooch to the right. Why am I doing that?
Oh, God!
Because the man of all my information, Caedrel, is going to be joining us. While Caedrel gets seated, thank you so much. I do have an update for you. League officials have confirmed a bug taking place in-game and have offered the teams to initiate a chrono break, which they have accepted. So we do thank you for your patience during this pause and now during the inevitable, chrono break procedure. And Caedrel, welcome to the show.
Hello, sir.
Thank you for joining us on the analyst desk.
For having me.
Do you see the AD and AP jungler? There's been the combination.
I have
that's
seen
been
it.
locked in.
It's really good.
All jokes aside, though, did you manage to catch some of the discussion we were just having in terms of, especially like the scaling and the theory around it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of tiers to the scaling in mid lane. I think the S+ tiers are always Azir core key because they're basically like AD carry mages that scale super well of attack speed, which is super important because attack speed scales basically infinitely. Then you have mages like Orianna, which is like the S tier. Then you're looking at Syndra, Victor in the A+ tiers. But I think the most interesting thing to me about this game was the bot matchup. Now, I don't think it was really caught on the spectator, but TynX started bot side, and he got leashed by his bot lane, which has a winning matchup. MF into Alistar, it beats Rakan. But the leash actually made it so they got pushed in, and then what happened was XL cheater recalled, got a longsword, then they went back to bot, and now the Xayah Rakan is winning the lane. So I think, after this chrono break, they should definitely adapt, and they should not leash in that bot matchup, because while you're playing so hard the top side, if you're getting pushed in as MF Alistar, if you can get dove with Xayah Rakan, you're just flooding into so many problems.
So this is then when we tie into what that bigger discussion was, which is that like when you have SK's draft and you recognize you're being outscaled, it's very important that you play towards your early game win conditions. And so if you have a 2v2 matchup where you can't really afford to fall behind early because you know eventually the game's only going to get harder and harder to play, it's very important that you're able to find these early game advantages. And you've seen them invest a lot towards the top side of the map to try and snowball Jenax, which so far, the Gragas has done a great job of tanking a lot of those ganks. And in the bot lane, they're also now starting to fall behind in CS. So already within the first 8 minutes, things are starting to look a little scary for SK.
Okay, now very interestingly, when you hear chrono break, right? Reminder that chrono break will allow us to go back in time, right? Not a reset of the entire game. Yes, Mr.
Very
Lamont.
true.
Mr. Lamont.
Okay.
Now, I do not have official copy for this. However, you do know and you are aware that our games are played with a delay due to competitive integrity. The bug took place or was reported and confirmed at 11 minutes in gameplay time. We will go back to 10:47 in gameplay time. And for the viewers and for everybody that's watching here, we are currently at 8 minutes of gameplay time. So there's a bit of nuance there, which we'll be figuring out. The reason I do feel it's very important to bring that up right now is, Caedrel, obviously you were thinking about like a remake as opposed to the chrono break, right?
Definitely.
And you were talking about the impact that the Xayah Rakan now being able to win the 2v2 or push this advantage could have on the game. So knowing this now, right, knowing that the 8 minutes we've seen will remain unchanged, we'll still see 2 minutes of additional gameplay and then continue as per normal.
I think SK are running into a big problem then. The big problem is Syndra into Azir, Syndra should win early and you have really good 2v2.
Yep.
And the bot matchup, you have winning and a winning jungle matchup. So your basic winning lanes on paper are mid and bot. Whereas TynX playing, he's playing top side. Renekton into Gragas, Renekton doesn't beat Gragas. Maybe he gets a couple CS lead because he can out-trade him early game. But when it comes to 1 item, 2 items, Gragas kind of wins and can just chase him down on side lane if the Renekton's even with the Gragas. So TynX playing hard the top side when both your bot and mid are losing and they get outscaled is a really big problem for SK. I think TynX needs to stop focusing on top side so much and start going towards the bot side of the map because you saw the big problem, right? He went for the early dive top, level 4. He lost his bot camps for it. And the way that Nidalee Pantheon works is the Pantheon has to make plays. Whereas XL have drafted to a point where Pantheon's just a bridge to the mid game. He's just there to be like this middleman to get the Azir and Xayah online. And then he'll basically take a step back and they'll take over. Whereas for SK, it's the other way around. The Nidalee needs to make the plays and get super, super power farmed, get drakes, get objectives. And then his team basically join him in the mid game. They have to get like barons and stuff. But I think that the fact is that his mid and bots are kind of behind right now. So I think they're running into a bit of problems in the scaling and in their win conditions.
I mean, this is something that Medic and Endo were talking about as well. A Medic moment that took place during the cast was that TynX, the only player that hasn't died before 15 minutes. And basically, well, my joke is awful, like the humorous supply. The intent and the focus we're trying to get to is that TynX had to be more impactful. Now, I always think in very black and white terms, where 8 minutes in gameplay, there's no kills on the board yet, there's nothing happening. When does that window start to shut? When does that scaling advantage of the XL comp start to become worrying for you when you see that SK haven't been able to pick anything up or take advantage of the comp they put together?
Normally, when you start to attribute scaling to champions, you're looking at 2+ items.
Yep.
2.5 items is when the main part comes in. Third item is where the power spike happens. You know, you used to see it before when Tristana used to have like Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire, Static Shiver 20 minutes. The game's lost. She's going to take over the game.
Yep.
So 2.5 items, 3 items is where scaling starts to come into play. 1 to 2, you're looking at more Drake fights. 15 to 20 minutes is where that ramp up happens. But like I said, I feel like when you play Nidalee Renekton, you want to play into the Renekton lane. But Gragas shuts down the Nidalee jump, it shuts down all of their engage. And if he can't get dove, then even if you can dive at Gragas, all you're doing is delaying his Ruby Crystals, you know? That man's still going to be tanky. Whereas if the Xayah and Azir are winning their lane and getting item advantages over a Syndra and an MF, it's kind of like, well, the Gragas is less tanky, but we're still getting pounded, so... Yeah.
Got it. I want to talk more about this
He's
MF.
effectively saying that it's kind of doomed right now for SK.
No, I didn't say that.
He didn't say it.
I didn't technically say it.
But I'll say it because, like, but that's also the thing that we're setting up for, though, right? Because remember, this whole conversation started with, what do these teams look like coming into today, right? So SK and XL, the way they approached the games yesterday was SK wanted to play heavily through top side of the map. They got kills in bot lane, and then they snowballed off the back of that.
Right.
Today, they wanted to go back to yesterday's strategy, which was, let's try and play through the top side of the map. We also draft a winning bot lane, but we'll have pressure bot. We should have pressure mid. We can try and snowball top. Like, it's winning everywhere for us.
And the thing is, playing topside is good, but involve your mid laner, right?
Right.
Syndra, Nidalee, Renekton. This is like the best level 6 comp I've ever seen in my life. Renekton level 6, Syndra one-shotting, spears. Like, I feel like he needs to involve blue way more in these plays.
Yeah, he definitely can. But then, like, this is where you're in an awkward situation if you're SK where they're not getting that, right?
Yeah.
And you can credit it to XL. You can say it's a failure from SK. It depends on your perspective. But I think that the reality of the situation is the clock is ticking. And so you asked about scaling. I always consider it like, by the third Drake fight, how much of a gold lead do you have? And if I'm SK by the third Drake, even if I've gotten the first 2, if by the third Drake I do not have a decent gold lead, then I'm worried.
Yeah.
So that's the point at which I start to get worried.
You know, Vedius, I'm trying to remember yesterday, Caedrel was looking at a game where he was like, hey, if Rogue are even at 20 minutes, you know, they
Yes, you did say that.
There will be problems. Oh, such great analysis.
It's true, what can I say?
I do have a brief update for you. All right, just to quickly summarize the scenario. SK reported a bug at 11 minutes in real game time. After investigating, League officials decided to initiate a chrono break, which the teams accepted. And we will jump into the game at around the 8-minute mark to review what happened up until the bug was reported, before we pause the game again to complete the chrono break. Then coverage will resume as normal. Our producers are busy trying to figure out all of this time-traveling scenario, and I would ask, and this is not on prompter, let us do the 3 minutes. That might be fun. I'm getting a yes. Okay.
Lovely.
It will be a while. Okay, it will be a while for the competitive integrity reasons, in which case maybe it's not the best idea. I thought we could just do it now. So I'll let producers decide this one. Before we start to step away and maybe just give a little bit of a breather from this particular game's discussion, as I'm unsure how long this pause will take. I do want to ask about this last pick, Misfortune. I was kind of memeing the first time I asked, and I do want to go back to a bit more of a serious question. What do you think of the Misfortune when you think of the comp? It was paired up with the Alistar into the Xayah Rakan. Do you like the idea of it? You know, I just wasn't expecting or anticipating the MF, and it's not something we're seeing a huge amount of.
What else was banned?
So I can tell you right now, on the SK side, Kaisa, Olaf, Udyr, Draven, Thresh. Oh, look at this. Fantastic. Thank you very much, production.
Okay. I think the MF last pick is good into Xayah, from what I know, because she can push Xayah in and she can basically poke her out, especially with an Alistar. But I think that when it comes to Aftershock champs into Rakan, whichever support can go in first is going to win that matchup. So if Alistar can combo in and actually has somewhat vision, then he's going to win the matchup.
Yep.
And if Rakan can be the one dashing onto the AD carry, whereas Alistar's knocking Rakan away, then they've already lost that matchup. I think the only real optimization you could do is the Kalista Alistar, but obviously that's banned away from XL. I think Kalista Alistar is the best. I mean, Kalista Draven being banned, Kai'Sa's got banned, and they have Xayah. So the only real champs you're looking at are like MF, Ashe, Samira. I think MF is the best for lane phase. And I think when you've got Syndra on your team and a Nidalee, you have to play for lane phase.
Yeah, I think, yeah. He sums it up very nicely. I think the other advantage of MF is because she's very fast. You can dodge Rakan. She runs quick. I mean, he said everything. What do you want from me?
I love you guys so much. I love you guys.
But I think the only way SK, I mean, I don't think the game's doomed for SK because it's like 8 minutes in the game, right?
Yes.
Everyone's hitting level 7, which is like the power spike of champions. You got your ultimate, more points in Q, which is basically the main ability for like
I think they
Syndra,
just killed
Renekton,
Gragas too.
They just killed Gragas as well?
I think they did.
You think so?
Nobody has died just yet.
I can't remember.
At 8 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Dragon was picked up here by SK Gaming at 7.5. It was an Infernal. Now, technically, the first blood or the first kill that actually was then what led to this pause comes in at 10:30. So we're 0-0 on the game clock. I think if I can jump back, I am inclined. I'll try my best to see if this will update. It's a bit weird. So let's pause that there. So at 8 minutes, it's even in gold.
Yep.
The Dragon was picked up. It was Excel, in fact, that picked the Infernal up. That's a small mistake on my side. And that's really it. You know, one single objective. But the Nidalee not getting the first
Excel
Drake.
picked up the first Drake?
That's what I'm looking
But can
at.
you bring up the scoreboard very quickly? Because you should see
I
the
can.
CS
Now, unfortunately, we
difference.
obviously can't share this with you guys. But when it comes to CS numbers, 56 for Kryze's Gragas in the top lane to 81 for Jenax's Renekton, even in the mid lane. And then the Xayah, 86 to 65.
That's big.
That's huge.
The fact that Xayah is winning
That's
this
like
lane.
20 CS.
The fact that she has to push winning this lane, I think this literally all comes down to the leash. If I was to review this game as SK, at this point in the game, like, okay, we leashed, we lost bot prio, they based, got a longsword, kept us pushed in, and Nidalee lost her bot camp, so she has to play topside. Now my MF Alistar is sitting under the tower, and we can't dive this Gragas! What are we supposed to do? And XL have the first Drake too, so I think that the only way TynX unlocks this game is play through mid, get blue on the map, get him push Azir under the tower, get him on the tower, and try to bring Syndra to these top dives, you know? If you can two-man dive top and it's not working, try to get the third member in there, try to get Syndra in to help out the dives, I think.
Now, I just got an update from our producers that we will be able to put a graphic on screen in a moment. It will be the pause screen when the broadcast, you know, pause the game, of what the scoreboard looks like. So we'll bring this up for just a moment or two so we can actually take a look at this.
This is the dive. Yeah.
And what I will say as well, gentlemen, is like obviously as our league officials are still triaging the situation, and reminder, there's multiple gaming houses, a lot of internet, and we're breaking the rules of time. We're unsure how long this pause will go on for. I will move us away from this game in just a couple minutes' time. We will discuss the ramifications, the state of the league right now. But when you do look at the state of the game, Vedius, you know, what's some of your big takeaways here?
Well, again, I have to give a lot of credit to Kryze. I think that he has been tanking a lot of these ganks. It's not a winning matchup for either side.
Pressure.
Right?
Soaking pressure.
Yeah,
He's a sponge.
He's a sponge. And I think that it's really important that he doesn't die. Because best case scenario here for SK is that I don't remember what happened in the early laning phase, but if Kryze is forced to TP and then Renekton comes back with like a kill and he has that advantage, maybe he can TP advantage, then snowball that lead to bot. Like, this is where things get very difficult for XL in the early game, but he's been soaking up a lot of the ganks. He is falling behind, but as Caedrel said, the great thing about tanks is it doesn't matter how far behind you are. As long as you have health and armor, you're doing your job. Yeah,
basically to sum this game up by looking at the game state, the most important objective for both these teams is Herald. If XL get Herald and the first Drake, SK really have very few win conditions left other than playing through mid. And if XL can get an even gold state at 20 minutes, I think they're running away with this game.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm going to put this conversation on pause. We will return to XL SK just a little bit later. And what I do want to do is just zoom out for a touch. And before we start going down the tropes of podcast fun non-gameplay topics, can we bring up the standings on screen in a moment or two and just talk a little bit about like where we're at? Andy and I have argued and yelled and debated like you cannot believe.
Have we?
Yes, because I believe the standings are starting to differentiate and we're starting to see clear top and bottom and we're starting separation in the wins and losses. And you just can't like get on board with this train of thought.
If you were on XL right now, would you worry about where you were in the standings?
To a degree.
Yes!
Not too much.
I think this is why I quote it.
Yeah. The thing is for us especially, well, I don't know why I say us, but for XL last year, the difference is that I see from these standings from the last year's standings for spring and summer from when I was playing on XL, we were tied for 5th, 6th for at least 6 weeks. We were sitting tied with 4 other teams. I think it was like SK, Vitality, and Misfits, or Schalke, I think it was. Every single team had same win-losses until like week 5, week 6. So it was like really, really weird. And then even like the last week, week 8, going into the Super Week, we were all tied still. And then Fnatic was in there as well, so it was a complete 6-way tie. Everyone was mind blown. But I think that if one team wins this game, obviously one goes to 4-3, one goes to 3-5. Yes, there's still some more games to play, but I think there's quite a differentiation in the standings where you can see like bottom tier, middle tier-ish,
and just before we carry on the different like categories, part of the reason that I keep harping on about it and why I keep trying to win this argument with Vedius
Not really much of an argument.
is it's double the value. When you pick up a win against a team you're tied with in the standings, it's +1, -1.
True.
So
Yes.
it's a 2-game
I
net
agree.
difference.
That's how jungle works, Quickshot.
Thank
You
you.
get their camp +4, -4.
Thank you. Right? I am learning,
Net positives.
right? But that is also why I keep harping on about it. And like, obviously, we are talking playoffs so early in the league, but when you do see the standings this close, and when we have somebody like Caedrel who has missed playoffs multiple times and won it.
Okay, you didn't have to
bring
say
that
that. Come on.
Every time.
So now, Vedius, I keep throwing you questions, and you keep just passing the mic to Caedrel
I'm really good at that.
to make him work, right?
it's
I want
building
you to
him up.
chime. I want you to chime in on this now. You know, why do you still think somewhat the opposite?
Well, it's not that I think the opposite. If anything, I believe that teams don't put enough weight on the first half split games. I think that many teams think of the season as like a ramp up, right? Where as long as you're better towards the end and by playoffs, that's all that matters. But I think that like, so Excel last year, you had this really horrible strength of schedule where you played all the best teams first, and then you played all the worst teams second.
Mad, Fnatic, Rogue, G2 in our first VoD.
Exactly, right? So you were 0-4, and then you went 4-5,
Yeah,
I think.
5-4.
Yeah, wait, are you sure it's
We had a
5-4?
positive win rate, and then we started losing. Then we were about 7-7, and then we finished 8-10.
Right, but my point
Went
is
1-3
that
in
like
last.
the first half really matters a lot, in my opinion, because it contributes a lot to the later half. And my point is that like losing to teams like G2 and Rogue is somewhat expected. And if you get wins against them, that's really valuable. What really matters are these games. So that's why I don't think that there is that much of a separation, because all the teams that are fighting against each other, the wins that they need are right here. So these are all the most important games in my perspective.
And I think Misfits Spring 2020 sums that up in a basic nutshell. Was it Spring 2020 when they went 7-0 or 8-0? At that insane 2019, they had an insane win streak in the first couple weeks of the split. I think they were like 6-7-0, and they were like second place. But then they started losing every game.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
But they just made it.
I do have something very exciting to share both with you two.
Oh,
You
lovely.
don't know this is coming, as well as the viewers. We have a TriCast today.
Already?
Yes, we do. Happening right now. If you are just joining us,
now?
the officials are currently working on a chrono break in the game between SK and XL. The chrono break was successful, and we are going to look at the 3 minutes of gameplay from the pause until the game is live. In a few minutes, we will play the game from where we left off until the pause happened. Now, I do not believe we will have an overlay. Again, we are time traveling right now. So we are rejoining the game where it was paused live on broadcast. And the first TriCast
We're just casting this?
So we cast this?
We are now casting this.
Okay, well, Herald just spawns. XL have the bot push. I want to see some kind of Herald play. The top dive failed. I think they should have brought Blue to this play to make it a lot easier.
Yeah, well, I mean, the awkward thing... Wait, what?
Oh, TynX starting Herald.
That?
Quite a dangerous one, especially
Yes.
seeing as Pantheon's around. They don't have any vision. And Kryze did base, so it could work. If they sneak this away, it would be really huge for SK.
Huh. I'm kind of surprised that Czekolad actually walked into the bottom river there. So I guess he was primarily covering his bot.
I think the main reason was because he doesn't have vision anywhere else, right? Triple pink towards bot side, he wants to base on a pink. Basically, that's how mid lane works, right? So if you fog into bot side and they can't see where you are, they don't know if you base or if you're actually roaming bot to dive because they have so much ping control.
Yep.
So he does get a nice base off, and it takes SK about 10 seconds to realize what he actually is doing.
And of course, when we see the Rift Herald, they're picked up by TynX despite losing the first dragon. Just summarizing a lot of the conversation we've had during the course of this pause. I want to see what TynX is going to do with this Herald, whether or not he can unlock something from Jenax or from Blue, of course, as he's backed away. And Vedius, I'm going to keep looking at Kryze, keep seeing how much pressure he can absorb this sponge in the top lane, because it was one of the things that we're talking about, how pivotal it can be for XL to succeed this game.
But it's also important to keep track of how the bot lane is.
Czekolad.
Very good.
Okay. Forces the flash out from...
Yeah, the thing is, I think Blue has to be scared of the Pantheon ult in these plays, right? If he gets knocked back and the Pantheon's ulting in already, he's dead, and you can't see the ult until the channel time's been gone through, so good flash from Blue there.
Torre was also in the fog of war too, which really didn't help, because this is one of the things that Blue has to be afraid of, is that if his jungle is not in the immediate area, the moment Torre goes missing, there's always the risk that he's mid lane as well, so...
Yeah, and I think there's a big problem for SK, like we said on the desk. I mean, well, we're still on the desk, but the Gragas into Renekton matchup's not snowballing out of control to the point where Renekton can start dominating the lane. And XL have had mid and bot push this whole game. Look what Czekolad's doing. He pushed in bases. Now he's pushing again, he's basing again. And the same thing's happening with Patrik. If you just keep watching the carries of XL, essentially what they're doing is they're keeping this triple pink wall set up bot side, pushing in waves and constantly basing and keeping SK under their towers. And if SK base at the same time, they lose waves, and then XL can start getting these turret platings, which one has already fallen in bot, and you have a good bot matchup, so you don't want this on SK. I like the TynX has come down. They're trying to clear out this vision. This is what they need to do.
Okay, now let's try and watch as closely as we can. The game will be paused, and we should drop out around 10:47 in gameplay time. I am unsure if we will be able to actually witness the bug that does take place. Just got confirmation from producers we won't be able to see that. But this is pretty much the state of the game, still dead even. We'll only get about 10 seconds more content to speak of.
But SK, this is exactly what we want them to do. Just abandon top. Top's fine, he has a 30 CS lead. We're not going to get the Ruby Crystals shutting down. Gank in mid, Czekolad has flash.
Yeah.
This is how he needs to play. Play through mid, play through bot side. SK have a chance to win this game.
SK have a chance to win this game. And now we're going to kind of jump back to the analyst desk. Just for a brief moment, I'm going to celebrate something. In 9 years of being on the show, I have never, ever had the pleasure of having a duo AD into a duo cast, into a trio AD, into a tri-cast, back to a duo cast in the same game. History has been made. It is also the first tri-cast of 2021. Ha! Drakos and Caedrel, I won.
Petty, very petty.
Obviously, I am going to keep you updated as best I can. We are still 10:47 in game time. That was where we got to see XL and SK. We will be leaving it to our casters as we continue. And we're going to live. Great. Go for it.
If you only read,
I mean,
I wasn't
Nice talk.
let's leave it.
Please,
Stop talking.
Please, you do our jobs poorly for 3 minutes, and then you keep talking over us when it's meant to come back to us. You call that casting, Trevor?
You know, the thing that really grinds my gears, guys, is the fact that, so later today, due to Fnatic, me, Caedrel, Drakos are going to be tri-casting.
Caedrel, Drakos, and I.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Anyways, that also grinds my gears. Trevor's like, hey, you guys really need to like do a practice cast earlier in the week, you know, prepare for that game. And then he just does a tri-cast without practice on the desk out of nowhere.
I think it showed why you need to do a practice cast beforehand.
It's true.
Although, great insight from Andy and from Mark.
Yeah, I really appreciate those two.
Yeah. I think we're going to jump back on into... I mean, the way the screen is set up implies we're going to jump back in just a moment.
It's exciting.
Here we go!
We got a Herald in mid lane, too.
Rifthold used in the mid lane. 10 minutes 50 in. We just saw Czekolad die. He's 15 seconds before he gets back into the game. And as Caedrel said on the desk, SK could win this game.
It's possible.
It's insightful.
They could. They've got a 1k gold lead for the time being. They got that kill around mid lane, just like we were asking for them to do. And I think it shows an evolution in the strategy after 2 failed dive attempts in the top lane. TynX is like, hey, mid lane looking real nice. Czekolad, of course, I don't think had his ultimate for that play because he tried to get a little frisky on blue in the 1v1 and, of course, died using that flash too. So maybe some options to repeat around the middle lane. You'll notice Treatz has a Hex Flash for the time being. Not an actual flash, but popping out of the fog for these types of things can still be very effective, and with no Rift Herald to play for on the top side of the map, it's likely just going to be that dragon fight in a minute. Yeah,
it's 57 seconds before we get that dragon up. We are starting to see the first completed items come across the board. Night Harvester for TynX, so going for that more aggressive Nidalee build, not the Moonstone Staff of Flowing Water build we have been seeing going around. Patrik has finished his Kraken Slayer and does have a 20 CS lead on this Xayah over Jezu's MF.
Yeah, and I think the analyst desk did a great job of breaking this down during the long pause, is that you know, the CS advantages they're made up for between bot lane and top lane, but you're always going to favor the difference on AD carry. So Patrik feeling very confident with the Gale Force already, and especially because we're gearing up for that fight potentially around this Cloud Drake. XL have the priority over bot, over mid, set up, try and clear away all these control wards. They're all going to be gone by the time that objective does spawn. Jenax, of course, will have his TP if he wants to get into the fight, but I'm not sure SK are going to get the positioning they want around this.
For the moment, XL are the ones who get control of the river. That ward will spot out Torre as he works his way down towards the bottom lane. He doesn't know that's there either. Still a quarter of the timer on his sweeper, so now Dan will put down a control ward and XL clear it out. You can see SK don't really want to fight over this. It's only a Cloud Dragon. TynX is on the other side of the map doing his Razor Beaks. I will say, though, this means that XL are only 2 dragons away from a soul.
Exactly. And that's the thing that gets a little bit uncomfortable, because you think about it, SK, you know, how long do they want to keep fighting mid lane? They got a big pick. Czekolad very low.
Czekolad just about survives. Dan coming in just to try and save his mid laner. Pops the Aegis Assault to try and get away. Torre joining in the fray. Quickness coming out. and both the XL mid and the jungle will survive just about.
That's the type of play you need to see, especially with these camps respawning on the top side. TynX is playing around middle lane. Good spear almost connects. Don't think he's going to want to commit to that, but can interrupt the resets. And again, this means he not only gets the blue buff, he gets Wolves and Gromp camp as well. So SK trying to take over with some attacks around the middle lane, and that's what they need. Avoid the team fights for the time being. Try to build up as much gold as you can through these small skirmish plays, any sorts of picks you can find, because if you can roll into the next Ocean Drake with a pretty hefty gold advantage and Jezu's able to finish off an item, these types of things, well, they're going to stand a chance in the fights. But that window is a small one for SK.
And they have taken down 4 plates in the mid lane, 3 in the top lane in just a moment. If they can... Oh, wait, it's going to be 2 because they... No, it was 3. It was 3. I did my maths correctly. TynX caught out just a little bit by Kryze. Kryze does still have the explosive cast, but TynX was able to Cougar form and pounce his way away. Dan on the chase doesn't have that ult. Blue and Treatz coming in from the side as well. It's a 4v2 in favor of SK. Kryze able just to walk back underneath his tower. SK at the 14-minute mark have about 8,200 gold lead. And a lot of that coming through the fact that they got those plates in the mid lane and in the top lane.
Yeah, I think there were small ways Kryze maybe could have played that better, timing his cask at the same time he sees TynX use the W. That likely won't net a kill, but maybe forces a flash out of Nidalee, but ultimately won't end up mattering too much, as Kryze is just playing that weak side top lane as best he can, holding on, keeping the gold, building up those ruby crystals, I think as Caedrel said, as best he can, because of course you can see that bottom lane still a hefty advantage there for Patrik, and he's going to be the focal point for Excel within these 5v5s.
He so often is. 800 gold ahead, but we did see Blue has about a 600 gold advantage in mid lane, so he is farming himself up a storm on this Syndra. XL will secure, well, will look to secure the second Rift Herald of the game.
Thing is, SK are sprinting up here. Jezu is a little bit behind the clock and doesn't have the bullet time, but they are looking to bring all 5 members into the river.
Torre looking for the quickness, dives onto the back line. In goes Czekolad, sweeps them away, and TynX is already first to fall. Jezu trying to join the fray from the side. Blue doing what he can against Torre. Czekolad forced off towards the top, and he's got the blast code to keep himself safe. XL still on the chase. Blue flashes away from Torre, and the Rift Herald will be secured. 1-for-1 on the scoreboard. And a pretty much even game here, Ender.
I mean, that's the team fight. It's just 1 kill there for XL, but they're still winning in these skirmishes, and of course able to pick up the Rift Herald on top. They've gotten 3 out of the 4 neutral objectives to spawn, only losing the first Rift Herald to TynX, which again did give SK a whole lot of gold, but you can see there it's pretty hard for SK to approach into these fights. Again, so much CC, so many displacements, and it was especially fun to see Czekolad escaping the back end of that team fight with a nice use of the blast cone.
Yeah, just about able to get away. We didn't see any Mickey wards in that fight where you ward the blast cone to make sure that the enemy can't click on it. And SK, you could see that they were looking for those skirmishes. We talked about them in Pick and Ban, Ender, that SK wanted some of these early skirmishes, wanted to get these fights rolling, and weren't able to come out on top in that one.
Yeah, the difficulty is, you know, that's 5 people that Excel brought into the river, and SK are like, we can do the same thing, but remember, Jezu had used his ultimate to clear away a minion wave in the bottom lane, a side effect of the difficult laning phase he's had thus far. Just giving up so much pressure in that 2 versus 2. Now Patrik isolated a bit in the bottom lane, but again, Dan can always enter the fight with his ulti.
Patrik also still has the Featherstorm here. He's probably going to wait for Treatz to get that stun lined up. Teleport's coming in from both teams as Treatz tries to get away. Dan looking for the chase. Who's coming in first? Kryze knocks back Jenax immediately. The CC chain is absolutely beautiful. Torre knocked underneath the tower. He's going to try and dash away the bullet time. Rips through 3 members of XL. Treatz goes back in with Pulverize. Dan looking for the stun, and TynX will fall as well. 2-for-1 in favor of XL.
I just love the on-the-fly decision-making there from XL. They could have jumped on the Alistar, but he's going to interrupt all their CCs. You know, the Pantheon trying to jump in, the Rakan, any of that, it's not going to work out. So instead, they wait for the TP to come through. Jenax doesn't even have a chance to pop his ultimate, just gets bursted down underneath all 5 members of XL. And honestly, SK just think they have a numbers advantage, but immediate teleports come through. It's very good snap decision-making there from Excel, and again, as you can see it, no real chance there for Jenax. And at the end, a good punt to throw Torre underneath the tower, but they use the Zhonyas, and of course, SK try to fully commit into that, but TynX gets knocked out on the backside.
Treatz actually plays that really well. Knocks Torre back under the tower, then flash pulverize him as he comes out of his Zhonyas to make sure, or his stopwatch, to make sure that Torre went down in the fight. So credit to him. is a key part of this, the way this SK composition works. And with Dragon spawning, you can see XL looking for their third of the game.
Yeah, Kryze and Blue, the ones late to this fight. I think Kryze is going to show up a little bit sooner. And again, that's tough. So we have to look at ultimates. All the ultimates up for XL's top side of the map, except for Dan. Patrik, Torre going to be waiting on theirs. And I think their ultimate's going to be very critical in any sort of team fight for XL. So XL need to slow things down, try to pressure some of the mid lane priority, pick up that wave first, the one that's about to hit mid lane, and then SK, who's trying to set up some sort of a flank maneuver with Jenax and Treatz. Well, they have to defend their mid tower. There's a Herald going down there. That's going to get a second charge into mid lane, and SK, they're going to be forced to start up the Dragon, otherwise they lose 2 turrets.
CXL pushing in for the tower. Looks like they're just kind of trying to steal this one if they can. SK is still pushing for the Dragon
back up for
itself. XL have all of their ultimates back up. 2,000 HP on the Dragon. The rest of XL have now joined the fight. Torre looking in for the quickness. They knock Blue back. It's secured by XL. And now the fight really opens up. Jenax trying to get onto the front line with the dominance. Treatz going in, gets the stun. The shuffle back. The bullet time not quite enough to hit the back line of XL. Kryze going back in, flashes away. They stun TynX as soon as he tries to jump back in. And now Treatz is on the front line. Jezu ripped through. Alongside that, they'll have a bit of wagyu as the cow dies. XL win the fight and secure the Dragon.
Oh my goodness, that cask from Kryze just nasty to catch out Blue, and from then on, there was no chance in the team fight for SK. XL only lost 1 member, I think, for the 5 of SK, and they are now on Soul Point. XL with the scaling team comp just continue to beat SK at every turn in this game.
Kryze and Dan having a field day in some of these fights. Kryze is currently 404, opponents not found. He continues to get the displacement off that he needs.
What's this barrel? Kryze doesn't even have vision in this bush. How does he know to get this barrel onto Blue? That's just crazy right there. Snags him. Blue probably thinks he's safe with the control ward there, but clearly he wasn't. And then SK, they try to salvage this fight, but there's no fight left to salvage. There's no damage to come in. And again, even if you use one big ultimate to start off the fight, you always have that Emperor's Divide to try and kite on back there. Just good stuff out of Excel, and I don't know how they lose this game from this point on. They have just, even the goal is so close, compositionally, it is such a massive advantage.
You can see the damage that Patrik's putting out as well. Absolutely topping the charts. We mentioned it earlier when he started to build up that CS lead over Jezu. He's been so consistent for this XL lineup. Topping the charts, not just in this game, but also across the board for XL. He's like the second best AD carry in terms of kill participation, the best in terms of damage percent. He really puts this XL team on his back at times.
And it was the same story for Patrik last year, right? He was always the standout player for XL, always delivering very solid performances for his team. So good to see it carry over, stand the test of time here for XL. As far as SK, it's like trying to figure out what sort of options they have left. TPs are going to come up for them shortly, but XL always are going to have some to be able to respond. Their dive, they'll single target damage isn't really effective against a lot of the picks that XL do have, so their best option is to play around vision, you'd suppose. But XL, if they continue to play a smart, well thought through game, don't give SK those opportunities, well, you can slowly push the vision line forward, slowly choke them out, and SK will not have the options to fight back.
Yeah, XL really just want to gain control of this jungle with those wards, as you say, put the vision line further into SK's faces, and then wait 2 minutes. There's an Ocean Dragon. You see SK are trying to find a pick in a side lane. Czekolad has the teleport, has the flash, has the Rising Sand, so he can just shuffle his way away. And it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Like, what do SK do? How do you catch that? It's basically impossible.
Yeah, but like, it's so hard for SK, because like, what else are you going to do? You have to sort of waste time, give XL more windows back in the game to try and get something done. Because again, you are fighting against the clock. So they don't find the pick. Of course, they're going to lose this tower on top of everything else. And with no inner turrets in mid or bottom lane, setting up for that Ocean Soul fight is going to be really hard. XL don't really have to do anything too special here. They're just playing the clock. 24 minutes, that's when the Ocean Drake is going to spawn. And I mean, they have tools to force SK away from the Dragon too, so it's not even like TynX can realistically get in position for a steal. If SK were maybe playing blue side, hopping over that Dragon wall is a little more realistic, but when you have 2 main choke points to come in, and there's Azir soldiers, you have to worry about feathers, potentially Gragas barrels, like, man, how are you gonna make that work? It's just not gonna happen.
I will say I'm really enjoying the way that XL seem to have developed over the last week or so, because they started off with some unique picks. The Lulu top lane, we saw the Ivan top. They didn't quite really know their identity, and they've slowly developed into a team that is consistent. Like they're going to have won, if they win this game, their last 3 games in a row. They're going to be sitting at a positive win-loss almost halfway through the split. And what I like is the intricacy of it, because it's not just the Patrik show all the time, although he does do a lot of damage. It's about the rest of the team being able to facilitate him in these late game fights.
Yeah, he's got a solid supporting cast too,
Yeah.
I think you might say here. Treatz, maybe in a bit of trouble, is able to walk it out, and I think the team play is telling when you look at some of the kill participation. You know, Dan Kryze in every single kill, the bot lane in 7 of 8. And now how do SK approach this Ocean Drake? Excel, not going to give them any vision. You have to count wards. There's 1 ward, base ward left on Treatz. He has 2 control wards, and that's it. A blue trinket on Jezu as well. But the clock is ticking down. The waves are being pushed up from Excel, and jungle camp's denied.
I'm wondering, there is a single red ward in the middle of mid lane, and I'm wondering perhaps if SK can use it. Kryze going forward.
Oh, but Excel, look at the flank.
Them away.
Excel aren't even going to commit to this flank. I mean, I think they wipe the team fight if they go for it, but they want to go back towards the Ocean Soul. Again, Jenax teleports down to the bottom lane, and it's being started up. Cask, Azir, all these tools to force TynX away from the pit. It's not a 50-50, it's all Excel.
I mean, it's gone before they even get there. The quickness stops them from getting anywhere near it. Explosive cards used as well as here comes SK. The bullet time combo with the pulverize. Excel have to try and survive this fight. They've got the Ocean Soul, and now they can really open up. Czekolad shuffles away. SK have already got 1 kill onto Torre, but Excel, all they want to do is get out. They got the soul, that's all they need. Perhaps SK need to force something like the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, SK were never going to get a better team fight than that. Treatz and Jezu working so well on that Wombo combo, but I mean, if you don't try to force the Baron or something off of that play, again, it's just losing. You get the kill to 5v4. I think it's still not going to work out at the Baron, but I don't know what your other options are. Look at this cast from Kryze. Again, just push TynX away from the pit. The Charm 2 made it so he had no chance to get on in there. And then
this is perfect.
Man pulverized, and they're all close enough too for the bullet time to do a ton, but with the Ocean Soul, the damage just doesn't stick.
I guess the good thing for SK is they did get some flashes out of Excel. Torre no longer has his, Czekolad no longer has his. Patrik does have his flash, but no ultimate for at least a short time. Kryze, no flash. Maybe there's a way you find a pick. Maybe. I agree. Ender's doing the whole shake, like wave your hands. It's never going to happen. You got to give some hope. You got to find something for SK here, because it is looking like the dregs of hope at the very least. Excel now setting up again around the Baron. Kryze is pushing in the side lane. He has the TP. And it would be a monumental task for SK to get back.
I will say, from Excel's perspective, it's not like they really have realistic like side lane threat, so it will just come down to the 5v5. It's not like you can do the same sort of game of cat and mouse, where you push bot lane, threaten the Baron, go back and forth until SK do make a mistake. Instead, it will be trying to use that hard engage, maybe use a Pantheon ult, drop on in, and make that work. But Excel just doing their thing, pushing the waves. After each wave, you cut into the jungle, put down a control ward, push the next wave, cut in once again. Deny every single jungle camp. Deny as many minions as you possibly can. Deny all the vision as well, and it's very realistic that we see a very fed Patrik just start up the Baron one time with Kryze, and the rest of the team zone SK away to simply secure it.
I mean, Patrik does have the Essence Reaver and the Kraken Slayer already complete. Torre is going to heal off with the Gleaming Quill. He got chunked out by a spear a little bit earlier. And you can see XLR trying to gain control around this area. No one in the side lane, really. Czekolad pushed up that top lane, which is being caught by Blue. Dan stepping forward. Just trying to get rid of as much vision as possible. Torre is going to use that Battle Dance, but SK willing just to let up a little bit of the pressure that they have in their red side.
Honestly, off this next wave, I do want to see Excel try to 2-mana and just threaten it. There are blue trinkets on SK, but Excel have an Ocean Soul, right? Like, you can easily start up the Baron with a tank and not be too concerned about soaking up a lot of damage. Does seem like with Czekolad maybe walking up to hit the top wave, they're not going to go for it immediately, but Kryze, he's making me hopeful. He drank some of his drink, his water, his water
wine.
jug. It's water.
Actually, that's probably a weird sort of post-fire wine. Like a mead.
A mead, yes.
Delicious pulse-fire mead.
Come on, Excel. I know it's only 26 minutes of the game. I'll see some spice.
Well, at the moment, they're not doing anything spicy. Unwilling to pull the trigger on this Baron play, but I agree with you. You know, you've got Azir if you want. You've got Xayah, who's very fed. You have a tank in Kryze if you want him. And you have the Ocean Soul, so you can just tank up a lot of any of the poke that comes out from SK. I wonder.
There we go.
As they started up, and it's just Patrik Czekolad. Like, this is all you need. You have your
but I feel like you do want to tank as well, someone to start soaking up the damage, but it's down to 6k already. The good news is TynX can hop over this wall, so...
Yeah, Kryze needs to get round here, because otherwise TynX can just come in. Excel actually peeling off the Baron and looking for a fight. Jenax caught out, knocked back with the cast, straight into Torre's knock-up, with a bullet time rips through from the side. Jenax will be the first to fall, and Excel on the wrong side of the wall for SK to get any more follow-up. Kryze is on the chase. turbo chem tank straight into the face of Treatz, and they're going to force them back underneath their tier 2. Here's the star fall as Ball does Dan. He dives onto the backline. Torre going in as well. You can just see them absolutely rip through. Czekolad trying to get onto TynX, who will flash away. But Excel get a 4-for-0 exchange.
That's the way it needs to be done. Excel start the Baron, say, SK, come and get us. They absolutely destroy them. I don't know what TynX is trying to accomplish, but it's not going to result in much. He'll fall to Kryze, and the final hit from Patrik. Excel are going to charge up mid.
They should be able to look for the end here. Nexus Towers will, the Inhibitor Tower will fall very quickly. So will the Nexus Towers, and Excel end 3 games in a row. Now they have won a positive win-loss at the 7-game mark. They continue to improve. Treatz goes in once again. The 4-man knockup. Jenax trying to join the fray as the Gore Drinker does a little bit of work, but it is way too little, way too late, I'm afraid. Rest of SK are respawning. Jezu flashes away. Still gets knocked to the side. The second Nexus Tower falls, and it's on Blue and Jezu. But I'm not sure you can do this one. There's Blue. Wow, yeah, you definitely can't. You're dead, mate. Jezu will be the next target. Excel 3 games in a row as they go to 4-3.
Never in doubt either. Just excellent team play from start to finish. I think Kryze was the standout player for me in this game, withstanding all the topside pressure. 2 dives in a row. Was not going to be able to be killed, even though he dropped in CS. His casks later on destroying SK, catching out Blue, catching out Jezu. Everything came together for Excel in just a very good game overall. They did not really give SK any windows to get back into the game.
I think that's the thing as well. Like, Excel have been consistently falling behind in the early game, and they didn't really do that this game, and then they were still able to enact their strategy. You can vote for one of them, and your key player of the game, vote at LEC on Twitter. Kryze, Dan, and Patrik are your options. Once again, no supports. And I like... Torre has had enough bad moments this split that when he has good ones, I think we should praise him.
I'm not going to give sympathy player of the game votes. It's Kryze, baby. He's carrying.
Kryze did have a very good performance as well. It's true. Justice for supports is a very important, dear thing to my heart.
You've got to stop.
Why?
We're done for the weekend.
Junglers are broken, okay, and you complain all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, they deserve to get nerfed, and see how you're complaining?
There's
That's
a lot
how
of
supports
stakes
feel all the
in
time.
our next matchup as both Mad Lions and Vitality look to bounce back.
Justice for support.
Why would you do that? You just threw a stuffed animal. It didn't deserve it, man.
It did.
For Vitality, they have some decent players, but I don't think they have like the one player that will just 1v9 the game. I would trade them middle of the pack.
Big
Self-made around.
Here comes Self-made with the re-engage. He's blown up by the Sand Soldiers. Upset's going so low, and he's dropped as well.
Mad Lions, I'm not too sure right now. They don't seem as strong as they were last split. They are very beatable.
Elisa, Destiny, engage the Laure is flashed away from them. Elisa will throw the Yotto and pick up the kill to Odo. The Christmas trees come out from LeBron, and Larson is exhausted. Get inside the Cataclysm is inspired, leverages the tower to help.
Oh, he went too early!
Survives, it's not enough just yet.
I don't really consider it gear. It's an extension of who I am. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality. Sometimes, I can't tell myself from my machine. I think that's by design.
Was a ship that put to sea, and the name of that ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew harder, bowed it down, blow me bully boys blow. She had not been 2 weeks from shore, but down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come. not been 2 weeks from shore. We're down on her, a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Before the boat had hit the water, the whale's tail came up and caught her. Hands to the side, harpooned and fought her, and she dived down below. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come. One day when the tonguing is done. Soon may the wellerman come. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the LEC and the interview booth here. I'm Laure, joined by Carzzy ahead of his game. Thank you for joining me.
Hello.
Let's start to talk about yesterday as a starting point for Mad Lions, because compared to week 2 where you had really great early game stats, the game against SK yesterday was a bit meh compared to what we've been used to seeing from you. So do you feel like there's some inconsistency for Mad Lions right now, and is there something you addressed as a team?
I wouldn't call it inconsistency. I'd say that we are just playing some team comps that we haven't practiced so much because it's still early in the season. For example, yesterday I played Tristana that I haven't really played for like half a year, I'd say. So I think it just comes up to practice. Otherwise, I think we're a pretty consistent team.
All right, so trying stuff on stage, which is good. We don't see that from a lot of teams, but I'm talking about you, Carzzy, personally. Compared to last year, I feel like now Humanoid is the primary damage dealer for Mad Lions, and you are more shy, I guess, compared to last year. So can you talk about your role within the team and how it evolved compared to 2020?
And I don't feel like I'm shy. Yesterday I was trying to deal damage and it didn't work out well. So, and usually it just comes up to the team comp we are playing. If we are playing a game around mid laner, then the mid laner is gonna shine. If we are playing a game around Xayah, for example, the game against Excel, if you remember, I am 1v9. So it also comes up to the draft most of the times. And also who's ahead.
All right, so who's ahead, depending on the draft. So you have a lot of keys elements at Mad Lions right now. But we talked about the new top side of the map, especially jungle and top, that you added to the team at the beginning of the year. And when I talked to Mac about it, he explained what we were expecting from Mad Lions, but I guess that we now had enough games on stage for you to tell me what they add compared to what we knew from Mad Lions last year.
So they are adding a lot of communication, a lot of fun into the team. Like they bring good atmosphere during the game. I mean, those two things are kind of the most important. They also try hard. They are playing really well, and they practice seriously and try hard. I mean scrims. So that's pretty neat.
All right, well, last question for you is simple, is the one that everyone is asking. What is this new Mad Lions? How would you define the team compared to what we used to know?
And I think it's kind of still the same. It's a lot of fun, a lot of coin flipping, and a lot of team fighting.
All right, coin flipping, team fighting. Hoping for a great game today and maybe some celebrations at the end of it. But Carzzy, thank you so much for the interview and good luck on today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And back to you, Trevor.
Thank you so much, Laure. Fantastic final question. And Carzzy, I love your first bit. What do you think of Mad Lions? What does this new version look like? The same. We were on board. Then you lost. Yeah. Completely. And the reason I bring that up, Vedius and I wanted to talk a little bit about Mad Lions, so a little bit of a deeper dive into what we are seeing from them and how they may differ from last year to this year. One thing did strike me about that interview is that Carzzy was saying, they locked in Tristana. It's a champion I haven't played in like a year, and he giggled himself. That surprises me a little bit because my expectation is that laughter, that humor, that I'm just going to play this for the first time in a while on stage is not something I would have associated with the Mad Lions. I felt they were quite a research, studied, theory crafting type of team, and that kind of surprised me.
Well, yes. I think that is a fair assumption to make in general about the team. I would also say that sometimes in the draft things happen. You know what I mean? And so I would say that may have just been one of those situations that talking to Carzzy, he may have been like, so we had a plan, they banned our plan, or they picked something which pivoted our plan, or something. Okay. And so he may have just gone, Tristana makes sense, or someone said maybe Tristana works, and then he goes, sure. And to be fair, he's a super confident player. We know Carzzy's also a very good player. Yeah. And yesterday, in all fairness to him, that all-in at level 2, I think was the correct decision, right? You have a level advantage, and the amount of HP that Kalista was on was so tiny. It was just the difference in exhaust, Hail of Blades, Kalista. There were so many small things that came into play in SK's favor. I can't really forgive him for some of the other plays that he made that game, but you know what? That does happen every now and then.
Now, Vedius, looking at the roster behind us, 2 changes from last year to this year. I'm going to ask you what Laure asked Carzzy. What do you think is the difference between Mad Lions last year to this year?
Well, right now, I don't think there is that much of a difference. I think that I agree with Carzzy that when you look at them on the surface, they seem to still be having a lot of fun. When you look at some of their drafts, they're willing to bring different things to the table that we haven't really seen. Like the Wukong top is a very easy example that no one else in Europe is really playing.
Wukong bot for them.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think that we are still seeing some diversity in styles, but what we're also seeing is a very strong, active early game jungler that is playing around his lanes, enabling his lanes, and also working with strong laners like Humanoid and Carzzy and Armut, who are all individually in their own right very, very good. But when it comes to the mid game, we are seeing mistakes, individuals getting caught out. And last year, we used to give a lot of the criticism towards Shadow, where sometimes he would get ahead, but then they kind of lacked that leadership or direction, so they would sometimes struggle. And to me, I think that we aren't yet seeing that leadership and direction that Xayah and
does take time, doesn't it?
Supposed to bring in. And yes, and this is something that we can credit Mad Lions for. Last year, they said that it was a building process, and credit to the organization and team, they rapidly got very better throughout the year, very better.
Great English.
They very quickly got better throughout the year, and I think that we can trust them to help this team grow and get better. And speaking to Mac, he told me that they were focusing on things coming into this week, but because of that game yesterday, you probably wouldn't have seen what they were focusing on. But hopefully today you will get to see it. But I'm kind of the opinion that I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt to the Mad Lions. I'm willing to believe in them and have faith that over the course of the season they will get better, because what the foundation that they have is good. The question is, do they have more potential than what they had last year? And that's the thing I'm kind of debating right now.
It's way too early to answer, and normally I'm the one that would jump on the overblown statements early in the season. I'm not going to. Very, very quickly, if we can, I do want to just contrast some of the early game stats that we had. Mad versus SK yesterday versus weeks 1 and 2. Minus 2.K, plus 1.9K at 15. KD, first tower.
Yeah, we had that. It wasn't great now, for Mad Lions.
The reason I do want to bring it up, obviously we have focused very heavily on the Mad Lions right now, and I do think that is just a little bit of a blueprint, a little bit of a way in which that Vitality could pick up the win. It's going to be a tough task. Mad Lions are definitely still the favorites despite yesterday's loss. We're almost ready for that game 3. It's a chance for Mad Lions and Vitality to turn the tides after a mixed start to the season. We'll see you on the other side of the break. That early game sucked though.
It did.
What was that?